to you live from our studios on the East Coast and in the Midwest. It's the Behind the Ears podcast, because everybody does Disney differently. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Behind the Ears podcast. I am your host tonight, Mr. Chris. I hope everybody is having an absolutely fabulous evening. This is the Monday before Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means. That's right. You're right now all figuring out to yourselves whether or not you have enough time to actually get that turkey thawed in the fridge before Thursday. Let's face it, you're all thinking about it. And if you're not thinking about it, you're thinking about it now. You're welcome. Yet another public service announcement brought to you by me. So, hey, I'll tell you what. I've got myself a cup of tea here this evening. And of course, if I have a cup of tea, that means we've got a special guest in our showroom today. So, hey, everybody, let me go ahead and welcome Erick Cantor from Expedition Roasters, expeditionroasters.com. Erick, how you doing today?
Very good. What's up, Chris?
Hey, you know what? I am living the absolute dream, and I'll tell you, I'm so glad that you're here. It's been a little while since we've talked on the show. Last time we had you on, it was back in May, back in the spring, for our marathon show, which set records left and right, which was a whole lot of fun. And I'm glad that you're back here. How have you been, man? I mean, it's been like over 6-7 months. I mean, things have been crazy for you lately.
Yeah. It's been busy, which is good. And, it's that time of the year we're gearing up for, hopefully everyone getting their orders in, some nice presents for the holidays coming up here.
Oh yeah, and I'm waiting for I hate to say this, I'm waiting for the Black Friday deals. It's as simple as that, and I hate to say this, I shop for myself.
Oh, that's fine. A lot of people do. You got to shop for yourself and maybe for someone else too. But yeah, we've got stuff coming up, different sales going on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and of course Cyber Monday. So there'll be different things going on each day.
Oh, that's great. I mean, so everybody should just be able to hit up against your site over at expeditionsroasters.com to see what those specials might be.
Yeah. They'll be listed right on the site, and of course, on our social media. And if you're signed up for our newsletter, we'll be sending out the email blast as well.
That's one thing I'm glad you brought up, because a lot of people don't realize that a lot of your, I'll say, blast sales, quick sales, flash sales. Yeah, I couldn't think of that term there for a second. A lot of it is actually, presented publicly through your social media platforms. And I've been trying to get people to, get a share over there, because you do it over on your Instagram page and on your Facebook page. And of course, signing up for those emails, you're able to get all those quick bits of information very, very quickly. I really want everybody to go ahead and do that, because I'll gotta tell you something. This is really the time to stock up on some of what I consider some of the great seasonal roast, such as the happiest brew that has ever sailed. And I'm assuming you still have a couple bags of that left, because you just brought it out for the winter holidays type of thing. Am I right?
Yeah. That's always a big seller and a favorite item of everyone's. It's our take on the peppermint mocha, and the holiday small world theme bags. So it's always a good time. And yeah, we'll probably carry that hopefully into the new year a little bit. Depends how quick it goes.
Yeah, it's one of those cases where I myself need to get some of that, only because I usually get a couple bags. It's got to carry me out through the winter, and it's got to be probably one of the best blends that I have in a middle of the day type of thing. Especially I usually add just a little bit of cream to it, because I'm a cream guy, and I do it for everything. It doesn't matter what flavor it is. And boy, does it just provides that just enough of that mocha peppermint essence to it. It's just really, really good. One of my absolute favorites. Mary is just saying, hey, she needs more Prospector's brew. Joe, hey, he gives you a shout out for, as a thanks for bringing back Bobsledder's brew, which I am currently enjoying. My favorite. It is. I just as soon as I saw that it came back, I'm like, oh, order time. And I'm currently enjoying that. I'm kind of alternating between that and Dark Side Roast. And I will tell you this, I made a big cup, and I did basically 1 cup Bobsledder's brew, 1 cup Dark Side Roast. I like to call it the dark bobsledder. And I don't know, I'm just making that up. And I really enjoyed it. That was really a good way to start a morning, because sometimes you just need a big cup so you don't have to like take time to make a whole nother one. So I will say that was absolutely good. And by the way, Mary also likes the cocoa, which I also really like. Chris says his wife also really likes it as well. I like it. And what I also do, I make it with water, but then I also add just a little bit of vanilla cream to it. Oh yeah. It's good stuff, Eric. Good stuff.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the cream actually helps on the coffees. It actually helps enhance the flavor a little bit, adding a little bit of cream to it. And like I said, people ask us all the time, well, how should we make it? How should we brew it? And first of all, make it the way you normally enjoy coffee, and then you can step back a little bit from there, because you shouldn't have to add as much cream and sugar to it. But
Sure.
make it the way you like, and then experiment with it. And like you've done, put a couple blends together. We've had people do like the actually add the bobsledders to the peppermint mocha to make it a little bit more chocolatey. They liked it that way. So experiment.
That actually sounds really good. I may have to actually give that a try. And it's also, because I like the chocolate essence to it. And I love the fact that it's, I'm enjoying chocolate flavor without like getting a whole bunch of carbs and stuff like that, which I enjoy. Because last thing I need is I don't need a sugar high and a sugar fall right off the bat. That's for darn sure. And like tonight, I am sipping on a nice mug of, and everybody always gets a kick out of my mugs, since my Animal Kingdom mug, filled with Second Star to the Right, which is a wonderful herbal tea that has got essences of apple, cranberry, cherry, hibiscus, and I think a little bit of orange as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I really super enjoy this flavor. It's not your average ordinary tea. It's not caffeinated. I'm going to enjoy this. It's just, what a wonderful blend. I do let it steep a little bit longer than I think I probably should, but really gets the essence of all that flavor to it. And I really super, super dig that. If you're a tea drinker, definitely take a look at some of the offerings that they have over there, because I know some of you have always come up to me and said, hey, I'm not a coffee drinker. Do they have tea? Yes, they have tea. And now that they have hot chocolate, you're just a well-rounded beverage specialist, in my opinion, my friend.
Well, we try and listen to our fans. They're like, hey, what about teas? Hey, what about hot chocolate for for the winter? And the teas I've had some background in, so that wasn't as big of a deal to try and put some stuff together and and create some cool themes to go along with the flavorings. And yeah, the Second Starter Right seems to be a favorite, and it's really good. Everyone said iced as well. It's a big iced tea favorite. And yeah, we're actually working. Right before the show, I was actually making another batch because we're out right now, and I'm trying to get it all back up and and ready to go for the sales going on soon. So, and yeah, the hot cocoa that was a little bit of a gamble. We had to work with someone else to put that together and whatnot. So, but I think it turned out pretty well. And like I said, that's a limited batch and quantity for this winter, since we didn't want to bring on a whole bunch, but. We'll definitely look to bring it back next year again, and possibly do some other variations on it. Maybe do a little bit of a chili pepper one, or or something like that for next year as well.
It's kind of interesting. First off, the hot chili, our chili pepper. I never thought that flavors like salt or heat, like pepper spice, will go along with something that's normally sweet, especially chocolate. And it does go rather well with it.
Yes, it does.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
By the way, Joe has a request for you. He basically says, hey, if you can go ahead and replace the resort cafeteria coffee with Expedition Roasters, that'll be great.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon, but we'd love to.
I mean, I think all of us would love to see that happen. So the interesting thing I want to mention about the hot chocolate, the cocoa, because people are everybody I've talked to, they said they love it. We actually broke out another bag of hot cocoa from somewhere else, and I was really super surprised that I will admit, it was like a fundraiser type of quote unquote gourmet hot chocolate. And first off, it required the use of twice as much, even just by the basic instructions, as well as you had to add your own sugar. And I'm thinking to myself, what am I buying? You know, in the sense of this is supposed to be a premium product that we bought for a fundraiser, and now I have to add twice as much. It's going to last half as long, and I got to add my own like sugar, or in my case, sugar substitute. No, why bother? And it was and it and the pricing was the same. Why? So people, I will say, I really, in case you missed the, uh, the trying, the box opening, and the sampling of the hot chocolate, it was good. I really enjoyed it, and so we'll have to. As well, it was my wife. She's like, it was just. So that's how she put it. So, but I'll tell you what, everybody, you know what? I'm really glad that Erick's here. First off, Erick, is there anything coming out in the spring that we should be aware of, or maybe shortly after the holidays? Is there anything that you can give us a sneak peek, or is that all kind of still in the works right now?
We have nothing definite yet. We have a whole bunch of stuff. What will make it out there, because it takes a while to, because we work with a lot of different artists as well, to design the bags. We're working with some other ones to maybe do some other type of boxing, so it's not just the bag itself. So you'll have some type of collectible box to go along with the coffees. So we got a bunch of stuff like that. Hopefully, starting maybe in February or so, will be the next release of something new. We released, again, we do other stuff, pop culture stuff. We did the Bullet blend for the Bullet Mustang. We're doing some other, that's in a collectible little vintage style oil can. And we're doing a couple other different ones like that, themes like that, for some automotive stuff, some of the gearheads out there. But yeah, then we'll be doing some other, some more teas are coming out. We want to do actually a true iced tea blend for the spring.
Oh, wow.
And like I said, then we're collaborating right now with a couple of artists to do some type of like box sets that'll come in something cool. We're just trying to figure out the the logistics of getting all that done.
I mean, it's not about just, in your case, yeah, it's not just about the product itself. It's, you have a lot of artists that actually work on the bag designs, and of course, the presentation of the product, which, quite honestly is really cool to look at. I mean, it's very artistic. I loved the cocoa bag. Was just so reminiscent of course, how it was inspired, I'm sure, by a particular movie of a very similar name. And the bags themselves are very artistic, and I think that's really kind of cool. You actually, if I'm not mistaken, and forgive me for putting you on the spot, but in your merch section, don't you also sell some of that artwork?
Yeah, we do have some of the prints. I actually need to update that to some of our newer stuff. But if you can't find it on our site, if you look on the back of the bags, we list the artist of who created the art for that bag, and most of them sell that art in some form on their sites as well.
That's cool. Well, I will say that the Lemon Sisters actually asked, because the collab coffee you did sticking around.
The current one with Prince Charming, yeah, that one is an ongoing one. We have a certain amount in stock, but that's kind of an open edition if he wants to continue on with it. The one we did previously with the Lost Bros, that was kind of a limited edition, but we're looking to work with them again on another one, hopefully in the upcoming year too.
The one with the Lost Bros was a really good, in my opinion, a good breakfast blend. It was just a very flavorful, one that you would have with, like a continental breakfast, in my opinion. It was just really good. I really enjoyed that. So very cool. Now, everybody, Erick and I were talking just briefly before we got online here tonight. And, one of the things that I wanted people to realize is that, not only do we partner with some awesome companies that bring you some awesome products, and we want to give them a chance to talk a little bit about it, but the big thing is that the people that we work with are indeed Disney fans themselves first and foremost, and fans of the pop culture that they represent within their brands. And so, some of the things that I wanted Eric and I to talk a little bit about is, what's in store for, next year for vacation plans, because it's always neat to hear what other people do. And last year when we talked, Eric, or last time, it was one of those cases where he did both a Disney World and a Disneyland trip in the same year. And it was very nice to hear the difference in the types of trips that they were. And I thought maybe we would talk a little bit about that as well. So now you mentioned off the air that your next trip is actually, you're hoping it would be for Disneyland this coming year for 2020, correct?
Yeah, that's the current plan. We were out there last March, and then we actually did a quick. My parents live in Florida, and most of my family's down in Florida, so we usually stop either for the day, down in Disney World there. But we did a nice, relaxing trip. We kind of flew into Orlando, which we haven't flown into there because we usually drive down. I forgot how crazy that airport is. What a mess that is there. But luckily, we were just flying in, got our rental car, and headed off to the resort. And it was nice. We spent about 2 days just staying at the resort, not going to the parks, and it was actually nice and relaxing, meeting a couple people down there as well. So it was different than rushing, to the park every day.
Well, let me ask you something, because I normally don't talk to a lot of people that actually do the drive, and I'm one of those people that does the drive. And I'm kind of guesstimating it's about a 20-hour drive from where you're at, if I'm not mistaken, isn't it, around that time?
To Disney World, it's 17 hours from where we are. To my parents, they're in South Florida, it's about 19 hours or so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so I'll ask this: is it 17 hours? Does Google say it's 17 hours, or did you say it's 17 hours?
No, it's pretty much 17 hours. Yeah, I mean, most of the speed limits down there are now 70 anyways or so.
I know.
It's.
Well, the reason why I even say it like that, and I joke around a little bit, is because Google says it should take like 17 hours, 45 minutes for me to do the trip. The fastest driving time, not including stops, for me, I've been able to do is like 18 hours, 26 minutes. And that was actually obeying the speed limit. And then the last time I went down there, it took us like 22 and a half hours, because we hit every little bit of traffic and construction. And it was a mess. It was an absolute mess. And, that's always seemed how it would be for us. I've never been able to do, to break my record, so to speak. Not that I'm trying. Not that I'm trying.
Not that you've got a record of all the times from each trip or anything, but
I actually do have a record, and it was kind of funny. I keep track of not only the time, but how many gallons of fuel I used, how many exact miles I did. The last time I did it, round trip, all the miles I put on my vacation, door to door, believe it or not, was 2,319 miles, 2319. So it was kind of funny, because we pull into the driveway coming home after, driving for 14 hours. And I kind of flipped through the trick computer, and it's 2319. And I just
2319.
I go 2319. My wife's like, "What the heck are you doing? What?" Everybody was half asleep. I'm like, "It's a 2319." They weren't as thrilled as I was at 11 o'clock at night, when they were just kind of waking up a little bit from the last bit of the road trip. But what can I say? The George Sanderson in me came out.
Now, do you guys drive straight through, or?
Not usually. We usually split it up into like an offset part. Like usually the first leg is either 7 to 10 hours at the most, and then the remainder. And a lot of times what we'll do is we'll drive down to Atlanta. We have a couple places that we like to stay down there, and we also have friends down there as well. And then we'll head down the rest of the way and get down there by middle of the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
This time we actually reversed it. We did 7 hours, and we made it pretty much to the Tennessee Kentucky border, just south of Bowling Green. I think it was Franklin, Kentucky, if I'm not mistaken. And then we did, it was like, it was like 13 and a half hours because of all the traffic, getting down there. We got down there very, very late. But it was, we knew we were going to be late. We stayed only one night at Coronado and then checked into our DVC resort the next morning. That's kind of how we do it. And then on the way back, it's, we'll stop in Atlanta and then we'll, it's 12 hours home. And at least it gives us a nice amount of time at the parks during the day. And then basically to make the, first leg of the sad ride home. So do you usually go all the way through it, or you split it up?
The last couple times, yeah, we've been going straight through because we kept, again, with the traffic and everything, trying to time stuff out. We were leaving at 5 in the morning, then 3 in the morning, and then like 1 in the morning. And then we'd get, we'd usually go somewhere by South Carolina the first night because it's always cheaper hotel wise once you get, past that point. And then it was, okay, we're in Savannah, and then we're down in Kingston at the end of Georgia. And then it's like, well, we got like 4 or 5 hours. Well, I was just drive.
Keep on going. Break out the caffeine and keep on going.
And that's what we did the first time. We were like, okay, we'll make it down to the end of Georgia, and it was like, I don't know, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the night. So we called them up like, oh, hey, can we get an extra room for tonight? And they're like, so yeah, so like, all right, we're getting in. We're going. So that was the first time, and that was about 5 or 6 years ago. And since then, yeah, we've just been driving straight through. And we, luckily my wife doesn't mind driving either, taking the shift. So, we split it up. So it's not that bad, 2-3 hours each. So it breaks it up nicely.
My wife and I kind of got into a discussion about that just the other day because we were talking to somebody else who's contemplating driving down. And Kathy's like, no, Chris drives all the way down and I don't know why, because I'll be more than happy to drive. I'm like, I just want you to have a nice, relaxing vacation. I take care of things and you can do just fine. Yeah. For some reason, it's just, for me, it's more relaxing to actually drive. Not that driving, having my wife drive is nerve wracking or anything. I don't want that to be misconstrued. And she's probably listening right now. So the couch is ready for me to go. That's kind of what we do. And unfortunately, I'm an over planner. So I know exactly where we're stopping for fuel, type of thing. We've done the trip so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly
your gas station.
I know my gas stations. I know that, if I'm, the gas station will get us, and I have about anywhere between 75 and 100 miles left of range left in the truck. And that's a good amount of time, good amount of range left as a buffer. So I usually, it's a couple places in Kentucky. Atlanta's usually a place I stop at. Tifton. I mean, you got to stop at Tifton because you're driving down 75 and you see all these signs for Tifton. I mean, how can you not stop at Tifton? And besides, there's, Adcock pecans in Tifton, which is, hey, if you want any kind of pecan roll or fudge or hot sauce of any sort, there you go. Adcock pecans, not a sponsor, but I'm going to give them a shout out anyway. And from there, it's 1 hour to the state line where you stop to get your complimentary orange juice. And then it's the longest 3 hours in the world.
Yeah, that's we make, usually where we're leaving now, again, it's straight down 95, which isn't anything great to look at the whole way down. So that's why, we usually just drive straight through. But yeah, we'll usually plan it pretty well. We know where to stop for gas and everything. And the time we leave is usually really good. So unless there's an accident or something, it's usually, or weather related, it's pretty much straight through it until you hit I-4.
Yeah. Then all bets are off. It's as simple as that. And the funny part about it is that, we have navigation in the car, and then we have my Garmin sitting on top. And then like my wife breaks out her tablet, taps into the Wi-Fi of the truck. And like every hour, every half hour, 45 minutes to an hour or so, she'll get on Google Maps and she'll we'll do some predictive analysis of the route that we're on. What's the next hour worth of driving look like in the sense of traffic? Or, if it's all of a sudden red for 20 miles, do we need to break off here and find an alternative route? And, because it doesn't matter It doesn't matter what the GPS says or what the car's navigation says. The fact of the matter is sometimes you just need a good co-pilot to tell you where you need to go. That's what my wife is. She's an awesome co-pilot. She is fabulous about doing those sorts of things. And it gets, it gets us there. I have to say that I have to give a virtual slap upside the head to Chris, who lives 5 minutes away from Walt Disney World. He goes, I usually drive straight through.
Yeah, what's up, Chris?
Chris, what can I tell you, my friend? So, well, that's really cool. And when you actually get down there, do you actually stay? You actually stay on property and not necessarily offsite?
Yeah, typically. We were actually thinking about doing it this last time. We weren't going to the parks, staying just outside by by Disney Springs. But I always keep checking, hotels, this, that, and something came up for the Wilderness Lodge, which we'd never stayed in, which I wanted to, and it was only like another $20 or $30 a night. So I figured, might as well and get to walk around there. We ate at all the spots there. I mean, of course, we've done Whispering Canyon before and stuff, but got to enjoy some of the other areas there that we haven't done before, and just relax for a change.
You bring up something that I think a lot of people don't really realize, and that is, if you compare apples to apples, there's still, you compare apples to apples, you can find a good Disney resort for only a few bucks more. And in my opinion, I think it's worth it to stay for a few bucks more instead of staying off site. Because my thing is that if you're staying off site, there's a very good chance. Well, how's the best way of putting this? If you really only want to spend $50 a night at a hotel around Disney, you're going to get a $50 a night room. And I don't know about you, but I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to do it. I spend too much on a vacation to have it ruined by a crappy hotel.
Yeah, I mean, this was 5-minute walk to Disney Springs, of course, but I figured, okay, and if we stay at Wilderness Lodge, we'd have to drive, but again, it's a 5-minute drive, and the parking there at least didn't cost anything. So at least for Disney Springs when we were there. So
oh yeah,
it was worth it. So we hit that up, back at the hotel and this and that, and got to again meet some of the people that we work with and stuff while we were down there. So it was a business meeting as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, believe me, I was just talking to Chris the other day about a few different business meetings. We actually traditionally hold a business meeting at least once a trip somehow over at the Hangar Bar. and this past trip, especially when Danny and I went there, it was no different. I mean, we met up with somebody there and talked a little bit about the show and stuff. I'm like, yeah, it seems like every trip, one or both of us end up at the Hangar Bar to talk about something business wise. It's a lot of fun. I love that place. The place is cool. Now, when you go to Disneyland, do you stay on property as well? Because I know the choices there are obviously different and limited.
Yeah, and they've luckily we've either known someone that's been able to get us a decent discount, or we just happened to hit a good discount when we were there.
Right.
So we've stayed at all the hotels there, all three of them. But we have stayed, of course, at the Howard Johnson's, which we're kind of partnered with, that carry our coffee there, and they actually give little or 2-ounce packs to the VIP packages, to some of the people staying there as well. So that's a really good hotel. I mean, there's a bunch of small ones, like that on the strip, and again, we stayed at one of the other ones there. I won't mention it, and again, they're all from the 50s and 60s. Yes, they've been renovated and they've been updated, but they're still, they're small and whatnot, and and some of them just aren't as good. But when we stayed at the Howard Johnson's, it was, not just saying that because they carry our stuff, but it was really nice. Retro, given that 50s feel to it, but all updated. And the tower we were in was actually the one facing the park. So we were facing the Matterhorn. You could watch the fireworks right from the balcony there.
Wow.
And it was really nice. And it really is not that expensive. So it's a good option, to spending probably almost double to get into the Disneyland Hotel. And of course, Grand Californian is, even more than that.
Yeah, and isn't also the Howard Johnson's isn't it known to be like the the closest to the gate, so to speak, when it comes to the offsite hotels?
No, it's actually down. You know, it's facing. It's like I said, it's facing the Matterhorn, but so you got to walk down. It's about a 5 to 10 minute walk, depending on how
Oh,
brisk
okay.
you're walking. 5 minutes going in the morning, and maybe 10 to 15 when you're dragging at night coming home. You know, but there is like a main gate, you know, right across. You know, some hotels that are right there, and we stayed at one of them, and it was all right.
That was all right. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, we actually
I
ended
hate
up leaving there and getting a room at the Disneyland hotel because we actually happened to get a good rate there. So I said, no, we're spending because we were out there for almost 10 days. I'm like, there's no way. By the fifth day, I'm like, there's no way I can spend another 5 days here.
wow, that says something. I mean, I I've only been out there once. We did stay at the Disneyland hotel. Oh my gosh, I loved it. It was so cool. And I will tell you that I think it was kind of advantageous to come from, the central time zone, because at that time they had like early magic hours for resort guests at 7 a.m. That's fine, because unfortunately at, you know 4 a.m. or 5 a.m.
Yep,
I'm,
we're up.
yeah, we're up, because it's like we're using jet lag to our advantage, or the time change. So the first time that happened, we're all, next thing you know, it was like 4:30, 5 o'clock, and we're all just kind of looking around. I look at my wife, I'm like, you awake? She's like, yeah, I've been awake for a half an hour. My son's like, I am too. I'm like, oh really? So we all get up and go deal with the early magic hours type of thing. And boy, it was wonderful. And got a lot done before all the other guests, out
Yeah,
from outside. It was absolutely fabulous. But not just that, but to be able to just walk across. And I know most of the hotels around there, you just walk. And it was such a pleasure to do that. And it had a really nice hotel, or excuse me, a nice pool area. I'm thinking in my mind, I'm seeing the hotel. And
when you went, was it
thoroughly,
Peter Pan or was it the monorail pool?
the monorail. Well, actually, we were over the Peter Pan one, but it was like um, of course, my wife, being the monorail fan that she is, we had to walk over to the monorail pool because that was a requirement. And she's just like, I get to be in the pool and look up and see the monorail. Oh yeah. I'm like, okay. You definitely won points with my wife on that one for sure. Um, the thing is that we actually, and I hate to say this, we actually canceled our spring break trip in 2020, because we were going to go to Disneyland, and there was a lot of different reasons why we canceled it, but also part of it was, well, we were staying off site, and everybody knows that I'm a Hilton guy. So I ended up finding a room at a Hilton. It was actually relatively inexpensive for that time of year, because let's face it, spring break is really, really expensive to go no matter what. The hotel was about a mile away. Walking a mile is really not a big whoop-de-doo of a deal. And the problem of it is, though, is that plane tickets was like $650 a person, and for the three of us. And I'm like, I just can't swallow it. And it was also one of those cases where my son actually piped up. He's like, yeah, there's one other thing I want to tell you guys. And we're like, what? He's like, I don't want to go during spring break. I'm like, what? He's like, no, because last time we went to Disney during spring break, I didn't get a chance to actually, chill out and just do nothing, because also a lot of times what their teacher's been doing is actually giving them assignments over spring break.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't realize that. So we were going to go in March. That has changed. We have our plans secured, and I will reveal the plans at a future date. But yeah, I wanted to go so bad again. I wanted to compare Galaxy's Edges, to be honest with you.
Yeah, like I said, that's one of the reasons why we're going out there. My oldest, who's in college now, is the Star Wars fan. Um, so we got to get him out there. We were, like I said, we had planned to go last year, and that was going to be his high school graduation trip at the end of June. Um, but then, with Galaxy's Edge opening, like everyone else thought, oh, it's going to be crazy there. You're not going, it's going to be 10-hour waits and all that stuff. And then it ends up to be dead. There's no, there's no one there. So we ended up going in March, taking them earlier, during spring break as well.
Sure.
But now then he's like, see, we could have gone. Like, but who would have known? Look at everything else that opens. It's normally packed. But again, it's a very different park out there, and I know a lot of people didn't want it in the park there. Me being one of them, I still don't feel it belongs in that park. But we'll see. Like I said, that's probably the first one we'll hit. We'll hit there, and then we'll check out, the one down in Florida. Hopefully sometime after that.
So if you don't mind me asking, and I realize, and I'm not trying to make this sound like a controversial type of question, what would be your reasoning for not having Galaxy's Edge inside the Disneyland park itself? Is it I'm anticipating your answer is going to have to deal more with tradition than anything else. Is that kind of am I in the right direction there?
Yeah. I know there wasn't as much room across the street there, across the parking lot there, to do it in California Adventure. And I know, they want to take advantage, like they spewed out how many Star Wars movies had us, over how many years, which they kind of realized, hey, maybe that was too many. But same thing, I know they wanted to take, big advantage of their new IP and stuff and get it up and going. And hey, we've got the available land there, so let's just do it now. But I think they should just left it in Florida to start, where you had the area to put it. And then, at some point, either worked out some type of third gate out there or something. I think doing, a Marvel / Star Wars gate out there would have been a much better idea. But again, they want to, push it out as quickly as possible, which I understand, for money wise and whatnot. But I don't think it belongs. I would have felt better if it was in California Adventure. I would have no problem with it. It's just there were other plans. There's always plans, going on and stuff like that. And I think there are better ones for expansions of Frontierland and stuff out there instead of this.
It's kind of interesting because, I think a lot of fans didn't know why Pandora ended up in Animal Kingdom. And to me, it's still a little bit of a stretch as to why, but that's a whole different, that's a whole different show topic. Obviously putting it in Hollywood Studios in Florida is, seems to be the right home for it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really was glad that I got a chance to go there twice during our food and wine adventure for Danny and myself. I'm the Star Wars fan between Danny and myself. He's never seen the movies at all. Which is still, I don't want to say, humor. Well, here's the thing. Star Wars was probably one of the first, actual theatrical movies that I remember seeing. And could I actually say that I remembered actually watching the movie when I was, 5 years old? No. But I do remember going to the movie, the fanfare, going with my dad and stuff like that. And I saw it again later on, on a beta VCR. Let me go ahead and date myself there. But, I know there are still a lot of Disney fans that don't understand the addition of Star Wars and Galaxy's Edge itself. And again, I don't want to necessarily get into that as a discussion, but I think it was very well done in Hollywood Studios. And at the same time, I think it's going to be really interesting to see what happens after Rise of the Resistance comes into play next month. I think it's going to change a little bit of the dynamic of the crowd structure, even though some of our listeners were posting pictures of Galaxy's Edge today, and there was a 2-hour wait for Smuggler's Run. Which for me, when I was there, it was only like 45 minutes. It said it was like indicated like 55 minutes and ended up being like less than 45 minutes. I really enjoyed it. The only thing I will say is I think the blue milk's overrated and the green milk don't bother, but it's just one of those things. Now for you mentioned that your son's the big Star Wars fan. For you, I take it, are you a Star Wars fan?
Yeah. I mean, kind of like you, I was about 5 And I kind of remember seeing it. I know we went there, and I do know I seen it at a drive-in as well. And of course, then had all the toys for Christmas and stuff like that. I remember Empire a lot better.
Yeah.
Going to see that and stuff and whatnot. Um, I've grown a little disenchanted with it over the years, these past few years. Um, I don't know. Will see it in person. I compare everything back to Cars Land. I find that is such incredibly themed, and you have a connection with it. And I think that's where they missed the point of Galaxy's Edge. I know what they were trying to do: create their own land and create their own story. Cast members are supposedly part of the story. I get that, but I think if they would have made that Tatooine or somewhere, that's kind of been in all the movies, so it doesn't have to be at a specific time point. This They kind of locked into a now time point. And I think if they would have done something that could have been at any time point where you could have, anywhere from Vader, to Kylo Ren, or God forbid Jar Jar Binks, walking around.
Sorry.
But it could have been at any time point, and that's what people want to see. It's only the newer fans that are really into, I think, more of the newer stuff, and you have to watch, the Clone Wars and a lot of the cartoons and stuff like that, which is great, and I enjoyed them as well. Um, but I think they missed a little bit of the point, because people really would like to see, what does it matter if Vader's walking around one area of the park and Kylo Ren, or have them out at different times, whatever it is. They could have made something where it didn't matter what time period it was, and I think people would be more connected to a place that they've known and seen in the movies, instead of somewhere that they've never seen. So you don't have as much vested interest, I think, in it, as beautiful as it may look.
You bring up some very valid points, especially the whole, I'll say, the timeline, because for any kind of discussion that you have in regards to Star Wars itself, everybody refers to a timeline. Where does this fit in the timeline? Well, it's in between episodes 2 and 3. Oh, this is after episode, Mandalorian is after episode 6, and let's not necessarily talk about 7 and 8, and who knows what 9 is going to be like, and what's going to happen afterwards, and so on and so forth. It's always about the timeline, and we know that Galaxy's Edge is at the end of the current saga timeline, and I think you kind of hit it on the head. The current generation that's just getting into it, to them, they could probably relate a lot more than those of us who, know that, Han shot first. So that sort of thing. And, those of us who have had arguments such as, did they have to add some extra CGI to some of the, to the original 3, or this, that, and the other, the kinds of arguments that, destroy families and dissolve friendships, and causes mass hysteria. Because I've always said, I think that they built the park forward, or they built that land forward thinking, and I think that's the hard part about it. Almost like what they did with Pandora, because if you think about it, they based that whole land on one film, which is pretty much unprecedented. And the big part to it is that, now we have to wait to see what James Cameron brings up for,
Yeah.
2 and 3, and see then how the future thinking process actually holds up. And that's almost what they're doing with Galaxy's Edge, just because it is forward thinking. I don't know. Time will tell, but I'm looking forward to see what
I
it comes
think
up
they're
with.
going to make some changes to it. I mean, and again, a lot of people said it looks nice too. Again, I haven't experienced it myself. Hopefully, in the coming months I will, but it's kind of bleak and bland, and that's what it's supposed to be, but it's also not the best for the happiest place on earth to have this bland area. And the other thing was, I know the new ride attraction is going to, it looks to be amazing, but Smuggler's Run, I always put it this way: it's a video game. Let's it's an interactive, which is kind of a cool take on it. But how many times can you ride it? And I always ask people that have ridden it, and like I said, I'll see it for myself. If this ride was in Tomorrowland, was not the Millennium Falcon, was just you're going on some spaceship and doing this scene that has nothing to do with Star Wars, would
Right.
it be that cool? and most people say, think about it that way. Probably not. It's the coolness of going on the Falcon and riding, the Falcon. That's the whole point of it. If it's not that, it's just an okay, you know, attraction.
I think you're hitting it on the head there. If it was anything else, it probably wouldn't have that appeal. It wouldn't have the draw. That's for darn sure. Maybe the only other thing that I would probably think that would have something similar of a draw is if for some reason, you were able to do some sort of simulation as a pilot of an X-wing fighter.
Mm-hmm.
That would be the only other thing I would think that would be like, totally awesome. That would be something I would wait in line for. But it's definitely one of those things. I will give you a tip though. If you have the ability to see it both during the day and at night, do so, because I think that the dynamic changes of how it looks. At least in Florida, I will say that the experience and the ambiance of nighttime is probably, I'm going to probably say, the best nighttime park experience around.
All right. Well, I'm gonna have to put that up against Cars Land at night. Then.
No, well, okay, wait, Florida, because you are right. Cars Land at night. I mean, I will tell you that Cars Land at night made me fall in love with nighttime photography. I will say that it was so to actually try to photograph Flo's V8 Cafe at night was not only a technical challenge, but when I nailed it, it was just gorgeous as all get out. I will say I have to agree with you there, my friend, because you're right. Cars Land is epic at night. So it's the same thing with Galaxy's Edge.
Okay.
I think it changes. So if you have a choice,
well, we'll be there a little bit, so we'll get to experience both. So
good. I think you'll
report when I get back then on that.
Yeah, I think it would be really, really cool. And it's kind of funny. You like Ryan here. He's saying, I'll be down there on Friday. Can't wait. He hates Star Wars, but he's going to ride it. So I think that's an awesome way of looking at it, Ryan. It's like, what? Hey, Danny's not a fan. He enjoyed it. I will say that if you're not the pilot, it's the further that you sit back, the less exciting it is. So definitely try to get either pilot or engineer, interact with the people that are in your ride party, because I think that makes a big difference as well. We'll have to see how that goes. Chris actually thinks that seeing the Falcon in Galaxy's Edge is actually more stunning than the ride itself.
Yep.
The detail that they put in that thing is just amazing. So yeah, I totally think it's
and I think that's a draw to it. It's the Falcon. Like I said, put it in Tomorrowland with nothing out front, just a walk in, marquee, and it's just an okay attraction.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Now, did I hear you correctly? I mean, I don't think I got you correctly, but are you going to try to do both coasts again this year?
It depends. We do have possible plans of being in Orlando. I think towards the end of July for one of the Harry Potter cons that they're doing down there. We're trying to get a booth there. So, it'll be one of our first big cons that we'll be doing. So we'll hopefully have a table there. And, while we're there, if we can, get over there for a little bit, we'll try and hit it up there too.
Wow, that's really cool. I think that would be cool to actually compare both of them. They're supposed to be nearly identical, but there's always that, that description of nearly that always makes me want to get an idea of.
Yeah, I know some of the paint schemes and colors are a little bit different because of the Florida weather and stuff. They were saying the tones and stuff had to be changed a little bit.
Yeah, probably so. I mean, what can I say? The California weather, they really do have it. I love California, but to me, it's a great place to visit. I don't know if I could handle living there. I spent three months one year there on business. I'm like, well, I don't know if I can do this anymore, but we'll have to see how it goes. Eric, we're about ready to wrap up tonight. I will tell you, I think this has been a really fun conversation. Just having a somewhat randomized conversation about just how we both do our trips and what we are planning for this next summer, this season, I should say, next vacationing season. I will say that I think it's just nice to be able to realize that, you know what, people who have businesses such as yourself, I love how you enwrap your love for Disney as well as some of the other um some of the other brands out there that are so much fun into your product. And first and foremost, it's an absolute awesome product line, and just you really have it packaged well. So by all means, keep it up. A lot of people keep on coming to me saying, hey, I've just tried this, or what should I try first? And everybody's really excited about what you have in store for next year. So everybody go ahead and follow Expedition Roasters on their Instagram and their Facebook pages, so you can be informed of everything they've got going on. That's the best way to find out what's new, and also to get some of those new coupon codes as well. So Eric, do you have anything that you'd like to follow up and give one last shout out for everything before we
actually, just want to say actually thank you to to all your audience. I know a lot of them are fans of ours and just our fans in general. It's one of the reasons why we do it and continue to do it. We get so much great feedback, and it's kind of funny because again, this is still a side business for us. I still have a job. My wife still has a full-time job. And we had someone call and just to say, oh, this was one of the best coffees that I've had. Just wanted to call and let you know, which I think is kind of amazing and weird at the at the same time. I'm just a guy making this as a love of my own as well. And like when they found out we were just doing this on the side as well, they're like, oh my god, then I definitely congratulate you on being able to do all this, and as something you do on the side. But yeah, we have amazing fans, and I just wanted to thank them all. We really do appreciate it, and we do listen to your feedback. We love hearing from you guys, and what drives us to create that next thing on really what you guys are looking for.
Most excellent. Most excellent. Eric, thank you so much for joining us. I really, really appreciate it. Love the conversation tonight. I'm going to go ahead and put you in the green room as I close this out. I'll be right with you in a moment. Everybody, I'm going to go ahead and hit that famous old button that I usually press right around this time. You heard the show, and we hope you want more. Well, feel free to join us over at our social media platforms. Instagram and our Facebook page can be found at Behind the Ears Podcast. Our webpage is behindtheearspodcast.net, and our email is behindtheearspodcast@gmail.com. And our Twitter handle is @BehindTheEarsPC. And come and join the conversation about all things Disney over at the WDW community page. Don't forget to rate and review the show over at iTunes or Apple Podcasts, as it really helps us get the word out about the show. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the show on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or the Podbean app. Also, you can listen to us on Stitcher Radio, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, and via Alexa and Google Home. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this live episode of Behind the Ears Podcast with Erick Cantor of Expedition Roasters, expeditionroasters.com as my guest tonight. Hey, everybody, just for those of you who are watching the live show, just a reminder, Wednesday, we will not have a live show. I'm going to be spending it with my family. My daughter's coming in from out of town, and I am going to spend time with my family. And I appreciate all of your consideration and your understanding on that. But don't worry, we're going to have another episode released on Thursday. And of course, if you're already listening to this show via podcast, that's a little bit of old news, but that's okay. Listen, everybody, thank you so much for joining us. Have a wonderful holiday, and we will see you next week. Thanks a lot, and take care.